Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. Today, you're joining me for the third and final episode of Philosophy and Sushi. This wraps up my conversation with Derek, and at the end, I'll take a moment to reflect on how this whole experience has changed me and where I currently stand on my path. Now, before we dive in, I want to say this. I would love your input. Whether it's technical advice or just your raw, honest thoughts about the conversation, drop a comment. Seriously, don't hold back. Think of it as free therapy for the both of us. I won't delay this any longer. Let's get into it. I am Christopher Howell, and this is my Resolute Path. This place is a trip. It is like full. Every table is occupied now, and it's a Monday.
It's pretty dope.
Yeah.
All right, help me out.
I am helping.
Oh, man. Good call.
So what is your take on aliens? Do you think they exist, even though you don't really know?
Oh, I think there's something out there. Like, I think consciousness is like a very weird thing. There's like, for example, like in psychedelic spaces, there's times where I'm like interacting with entities of some sort or another. And then if we just think about it like in certain ways statistically, there's an appeal there, So like, if I'm not mistaken, there are more stars in the Milky Way galaxy than there are grains of sand on this planet. There's a lot of potentials for planets to be orbiting around stars.
Yeah.
And more planets that are orbiting around stars, the more likelihood that there's life on some of these planets to be walking around and shit. Not only that, but like we don't know like the extent of adaptability for biological organisms or things that consciousness inhabits or emerges into. So while we always think about things being carbon-based, because that's all we have, things could be, there could be other life forms that are, say, silicon-based, which has been considered before. But, like, I feel like there's something else out there. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's, like, came by here before. But I'm not going to go, like, ancient aliens and be like, they were here. That's how pyramids. Like, could be,
Yeah.
It's just, like, it's very interesting because, like, in philosophy, you're very careful with words, right? So, like, when I say, like, something is, I'm making what's known as a positivist statement. I'm saying that like it's positively so that this statement is what it is, right? So this glass is sitting here, and that seems like self-evidently true to like me, you, and everybody watching that this glass is sitting here. Yeah, it's doing great. I'm trying to power through. But yeah, it's like it seems self-evidently true that this glass is like sitting here. But is it?
Yeah.
Like my senses could be deceiving me as they've deceived me so many times in the past. Like my senses have deceived me so many times that it's hard to know when your senses are not deceiving you.
Yeah. Your brain is telling you that cup's there, but your brain could be wrong.
Yep. So like I really like the word seems. Like I have the seeming of my experience. I'm not really sure what is in it. And we're being like very, very technical with our words, like in the skepticism treatise that I've been working on for a while, I work on it, and there's times where I'm like writing appears or it seems, and like I hope that the people reading this go nuts because it's kind of the point. Like, we have like if we want to really be oriented in a certain way to like have this kind of like understanding of like truth and like how deep that really goes, then we got to dot our I's and cross our T's.
You're so good. I see the green light.
Okay. So yeah, I'm very technical about the word is, and I mean like even like in logic, when you say, for example, all, that means that you're not allowing any exception, right? So like when people are like, oh, like all people do this, right? It's like, do all people really do this or that? Are we equivocating for a reason?
Yeah.
Like, because sometimes like you over exaggerate because you want to like. You're trying to add how you feel about a situation to what you're saying about the situation. You know what I mean? But there's times where like people say it and they kind of mean it as they say it.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
get that.
you know, kind of comes back to like the power of words. Like, how are we using our words? How are we putting things into words for ourselves? You know, kind of makes me think about when people argue about sports or music or things like that. It's like they don't see the distinction of like is and seems and like, you know, objective versus subjective versus intersubjective. So like that song was horrible. How did it win a Grammy? You don't like the song.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other people that obviously did though. And yeah, like there might be a way in which we could come up with a standard and break it down. And it's a crap song, but it still won a Grammy. And like, it's funny me talking about this because I hate pop music.
I'm sorry, but Beyonce should not have gotten Best Record. That was some bullshit. Some bad country crap.
I ain't in it. I ain't in it. All right, that's my last piece.
You're gonna make me eat what 5 more pieces? Now you gotta have at least 2 more.
Okay.
You gotta have at least 2 more. Both those right there. I'll cut off the rest if you can kill off both
remember,
those.
you weigh 100 pounds more than me.
Yeah. No, I feel like I've been pulling my weight.
I feel like I have too. Oh, crap.
So what's one thing we've kind of touched on quite a few times on this is, yeah, it's something that really rings really true in my heart and head, anyways, is that I believe in infinity, like infinite possibilities, infinite worlds, infinite everything. And I feel like your thought that anything could be true and nothing could be true, or they're all possibilities, kind of falls into that as well. That there is infinite things that could or could not be that I don't even foresee or see or
yeah, it's like an interesting like ontological space that we end up putting ourselves in. Where we're kind of like, I believe that like in the multiverse, for example, right? Whereas like for me, I'm like I won't affirm or deny it. Of course. So like for me, it's not so much a belief as I'll entertain it.
yeah.
but that's how it is for everything.
Yeah.
For me. Which like for me, and like my goals for my mind and my consciousness, like it allows me to traverse more space. Because I'm not tethered to anything. And so like in a certain sense I have to find like groundedness and stability in like the free fall of skepticism.
Right.
Do you want another Arnold Palmer?
No, I think I'm good with this water.
Any other food items? We're pretty set.
I don't think we'll be able to eat anymore.
No worries, no worries. If you have it, just let me contact.
Thank you very much. So is there anything in your reality or space that you can claim is a fact for you?
A fact?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I have this idea that a fact is only a fact in a paradigm that predicates it. So within like the predicate paradigm of my phenomenology, yeah, there's lots of facts. But because I look at it in the way that I look at it, I'm like, any of those could be invalidated at any time. It's why I approach a lot of things like very, very contextually.
Yeah.
Like, Immanuel Kant would not like me very much. Like, you're too damn contextual. Because he's a very categorical individual. He had the categorical imperative. So, like, for example, that classic example of, like, somebody runs into your home and they're like, oh, there's a madman trying to kill me. And you're like, oh, go hide in my closet. Madman knocks on the door. Did somebody run in here? Do you tell the truth or do you lie? Right? So, it's funny. I would lie. I'd be like, no, nobody ran in here. Have a good day. Close the door. Kant would say I'm a bad person for that. You're supposed to tell the truth all the time. Categorically. If you can't will it to be like absolute truth for everybody to do it, then you shouldn't do it either, pretty much.
Well, I do have a personal sense of good and bad, but I'll also admit that, like you, it's a man-made construct, and just because I think it's good and it's how I'm going to act, doesn't mean that it's the universal truth in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
It's just right in that sentence or right in that instance and right for me.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, it reminds me of that Rick and Morty episode. Do you watch Rick and Morty at all?
Yeah.
So, do you remember where Jerry like ends up with like the Hellbound Hellraiser guys,
Yeah.
and like they're hanging out and like just like thinks that he's like so cool and everything, but like pain was pleasure, literally to them. Like it's kind of funny because like things that they were doing to each other in their little world and whatnot, like you don't do that like in the regular world, like that's bad, like to get you the death penalty, shit like that.
Yep.
But it kind of shows like this like relativity of things, that relativity actually exists, because like somebody might say like, oh, Derek, like that was a really out there example to use that Rick and Morty article. It's like, okay, well, let's look at people who do sun dances in the Lakota tradition, where they literally like have like wood underneath their skin and it's like ripped off like during their sun dance. That like, yeah, it's painful in one way, but it's also like this ecstatic euphoria that they also feel.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of it is about how is your mind conditioned.
Yeah. Kind of like the rite of passage with the bullet ants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And and there's so many with my belief in infinity. Just because something is true and right in my existence, in my reality, then you could tweak one little thing, and it be completely turned on its face and be completely wrong for some other being in some other universe, or even me in a different dimension or multiverse. Or it's all freaking possible, and none of it's true, and all of it's true, and it's all fucked
like
up.
like there could be this like this unison of multiplicity that we can't even like really fathom. It just like spans the ineffable, and like in some ways I feel like I do get these like aha moments, but they're like very
Fleeting.
Yeah, they're just like very ephemeral. They just don't last long enough to like hold on to it and allow to like crystallize in my mind to be like, hey world, this is what's here and what I'm seeing, and I want to tell all of them. That's why like I have ideas sometimes, like what if we're not supposed to know what's going on? Wow, they're playing ticket.
And God knows what would happen if we actually did find the truth.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of funny. Like, there's a dude on the DAT Nexus that made a post, and it was just like, for fun, and he just like contemplated like what, like, and it was very, very much, from the perspective of like Hinduism, but would universal enlightenment destroy existence? Because like in the Hindu system, like you have Atman and Brahman. Atman is infinitely small and Brahman is infinitely big, and they're the same thing pretty much. And like, when God, kind of fell asleep and then all of this came to be, that's like God's naivete. So like God not being aware of it right now. So him saying that like it would destroy existence because everything goes away when God is fully aware of himself. Right? So it's like, yeah, it could fuck everything up. But would it be a bad thing at that point? At that point, we're also transcending what's good and bad. So,
and that kind of touches back to the whole quantum physics for me, because we only exist until we're observed by God.
Yeah, like if that's the case, I wish like what's funny about that is that appeals to Charles Barkley from. I can't remember where he was from, but he was a philosopher in the early modern age, but he's the guy that popularized if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? Now, the answer to that question is no. Like, if nobody's around, it does not make a sound. Which, to me, it's like a play on words. Like, it has to do with, like, semantics more than anything. It has to do with the definition of the word sound. Sound is predicated off of reverberations off of an eardrum. So, somebody does need to be there to receive it. For it to be a sound. However, those reverberations are probably still extant whether somebody's around or not. You know what I mean?
Yes. But without the eardrum, it's not a sound.
Yeah, but without the eardrum, it's not a sound. So it's like, because like we're just flirting with the idea of like things exist without us like looking at it. And that's where we like, remember I was talking about like, do we start with epistemology or ontologically with certain things? This is one of those examples, right? Mm-hmm. So we say things aren't there until like we observe them. Like that's, like we're making a statement that's ontological about like what is there, what exists, right? But what we're really talking about is like we don't know it's there until we observe it. That doesn't mean it's not there until we observe it. We couldn't know that without observing it first. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like it's really funny. Like I said, there's like these philosophical threads that are intertwined, and we don't notice like when we're like overlapping them. When we're having like certain discussions or like thinking about certain things.
Yeah.
You know.
Huh.
Because I mean, like the collapsing waveform and whatnot, that comes from thought experiments that involve like Schrodinger's cat, which I'm sure you've read those.
Oh, of course,
know?
yeah.
And so like a lot of people are like, oh, we don't know, or like the cat doesn't exist until we look in the box. No, the cat exists probably, like just like the other side of the planet exists, even though I can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. $1 million exist. I've never held it in my hands, but I know it's true.
Well, it's like, why would I assume it doesn't exist just because I can't see it when like there's other things that substantiate its existence? So like, for example, with the cat in the box, right, there's like some poison in the box as well. Whether the cat is alive or dead is really what the test is.
Yep.
And like they'll say like the cat occupies two states at the same time. Not ontologically. Epistemically it does. What we know about it operates two states at one time until we go and find out ontologically what's going on.
And collapse that wave function, yeah.
I mean, if there's a wave function to collapse.
Yeah. It's just our perception.
Yep. That's like a really big one because like ontology talks about what exists. Epistemology talks about what we know. It's really hard to talk about either of them without the other one.
Yeah. Yeah, because we only know what we think exists. Yeah.
Yeah.
That made sense in my head. I don't think I said it right. Yeah, we're good.
Ready for the check? You want any dessert or anything?
I'm good on dessert. I'm so full right now.
Yeah. I'm busted.
Do you want to do one check or separate check?
One check, please.
I'll be right back.
Thank you.
Thanks, bro.
Oh, for sure. Thank you. This has been awesome.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Thank you so much.
I have never been able to have, a lot of, I don't want to say what you said was lost on me. Some of it, the big words went over my head and I had to break it down. But I've never get the ability. See, I'm not as good at fluent with words as you are. I don't get the chance to have these type of conversations very often.
Yeah,
From my upbringing in my life, everyone's a very emotional and not very logical thinker or philosophical thinker as you are. So this is great. I really did appreciate that.
Well, thank you for having me too as well. Like I enjoyed talking with you. That was a great time. I feel a little bad because I felt like I was bouncing around a bit, but that's just kind of my nature in some ways. So just gotta go with it.
I enjoyed the bounce around a bit because you bounced back into some topics here and there that I didn't understand the first time you were bounced on it.
Gotcha.
And then you bounced back to it a little bit later on, and that made me kind of go, oh, yeah.
Okay.
Kind of, I had some ahas there.
Good. I love hearing that. Thank you.
For sure.
Thank you very much. Yeah, definitely enjoyed it. And the sushi was fucking great. I'm glad that you let me know that it was over here because I didn't know that this was over here.
Oh, yeah. And then for all you can eat sushi, it's pretty affordable.
Yeah. Holy shit.
And it's got a good vibe to this place. I like all the different anime things.
Yeah. Good music too.
Yeah. I highly recommend if you ever come back here, stay away from the ramen.
The ramen?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love ramen, and I make better ramen at home than you guys have.
That's funny. Yeah, I already had ramen once today, so it's like I'm really good. I get that premium black. Have you ever seen that one?
Premium black?
It always comes in like a 4-pack.
Uh-huh.
And it's literally like black and red package. But I get it because it's 15 grams of protein.
Yeah?
I'm like,
is it spicy?
They have a spicy one. Yeah,
I think I know it.
Yeah, it has it has 3 little packets in it.
Uh-huh.
The veggie one, and then like a red one, and then a gold one. You probably would know it if you saw it, but yeah, that was my ramen today.
Nice.
I don't normally eat a lot of ramen, but that ramen I'll eat all day because it has 15 grams of protein. I'm like, yes, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing I need to work better on is my diet. I hit the gym well and routinely, and I'm good with my working out, but I could totally scale it back a little bit on my diet.
Yeah, sure. I feel like that's like the hardest part for a lot of people, and like some of that I think attaches also to our culture. You know, we like live in like our issue over here is overabundance, and like now we have to like learn this self control that hasn't ever really been highlighted for us to like pay attention to before. And you know, we're biological organisms. We're going to take the path of least resistance, like any other biological organism. That includes making food for ourselves. You know what I mean, and what we eat. And if we're conditioned to like, you know, something else being easier in a certain perceptual way, we're going to go with it.
Yep.
That's why I ate ramen today.
Well, that's why you got to make being healthy the easier choice. Like,
Yeah, no, definitely.
Like I've got a freezer home. I've got a friend out in Genoa that orders whole cows.
Okay.
And every time he orders a cow, like, save me a quarter, save me a quarter. And so I literally have probably 50 pounds of beef at home right now. And it's easy for me to have plenty of, you know, it's red meat, which isn't the best, but it's easy for me to have my proteins.
Yeah.
And I keep that stock with chicken and pork and everything else, too, leaner meats, so I can make sure it's easy for me to eat healthy and have my proteins.
Yep. I mean, that's the thing too. Is like kind of like the dude said from Atomic Habits. Like one of the first tips that he gave for making new habits was make it easy.
Yep.
You know, if you make it hard, then you're not going to want to do it.
Reset one check, right?
Yes, please.
Thank you for sticking with me to the end. Now, as promised, I want to take a quick moment to reflect on what I've unlearned during this series. I really appreciate that Derek and I don't see eye to eye on a lot of different topics. It really challenged me in the best way. Now, while I agree with him that we can't really know what's real and what's not, where the lines blur between perception and truth, I still believe there's something, some sort of connection. Not exactly fate, not divine purpose, not some grand design, but chaos wrapped in a mystery, with just enough coherence to make it feel like you're not totally lost. Now, this conversation really bent my brain, and I mean that in the best way. I walked away with some more questions than I did answers, but that seems to be the rhythm of life. You know, every time I think that I've nailed down some sort of truth or another, 5 more questions pop up like stubborn weeds. And honestly, I'm learning to be okay with that. Now, if you enjoyed this series, please like and subscribe. Hit that little bell icon so you know when future content drops. And again, don't forget to comment. Everyone has some kind of opinion on the topics we touched on here. And I'd love to hear from you. Even if it's just, you're both full of it. I welcome all thoughts, all criticisms, all the trolls. Please, bring it. Now, I love you all, and as always, keep it shiny.